Cassava. Cassava production in Thailand and other Asian countries. Cassava is an important crop of Thailand, but there is less demand for cassava in the country. Therefore, it creates export surplus and huge income for the country. Thailand exports cassava in several forms such as cassava chips, cassava pellets, cassava starch, etc. Today, Thailand is the largest export cassava products in the world by having a high market share of 70%, and Thailand is the #1 cassava exporter in ASEAN market. Although Thailand is a leader in the export with the highest market share, and cassava can be used to produce food and used in various industries, it can also be used to produce renewable energy. As a result, many countries focus and encourage the cultivation of cassava. Cassava production data from Food and Agricultural Organization of the United Nations, FAO, which can be considered as follows. Number 1. Cassava production in Thailand and other Asian countries. The country that produces cassava the most is Indonesia, followed by Thailand and Vietnam. The statistics shows that Indonesia's growth rate has declined while Thailand's growth rate has been growing continuously. Overall, all countries have increased their growth rate except Cambodia and Vietnam, that have decreased the growth rate. Number 2. Export cassava products of Thailand in the ASEAN and global markets. In the ASEAN market during the past 5 years between 2004 and 2008, Thai exports is not very high when compared with export to world markets. The ASEAN country that Thailand exports the most is Malaysia. Thailand also exports to other nations, but it is minimal. And growth rate of exports of cassava products in Thailand in the ASEAN market and global markets are moving in the same direction. Number 3. The export of processed cassava products of Thailand in the ASEAN and global markets. The country that imports processed cassava products from Thailand the most is Indonesia, followed by Malaysia, Singapore, Philippines, Vietnam, and Laos, while Myanmar, Cambodia, and Brunei imports processed cassava products slightly less. Number 4. The position of Thailand's cassava in ASEAN and global markets. Number 4.1. The position of Thailand's cassava products in ASEAN and global markets. Thailand exports cassava products to the ASEAN market the most, followed by Indonesia, Malaysia, and Vietnam. Today, Thailand's export growth rate has decreased considerably, but the growth rate of other ASEAN countries has also dropped as well. This will not affect the market share of Thailand in ASEAN. 4.2. Position of Thailand's cassava products in the global market. Thailand has market share up to 72.0 to 87.6%, even though the growth rate will be reduced. While the Netherlands have increased growth rate in exports by 65.8, and the market share has increased from 6.6% in 2007 and 11.9% in 2008. If compared with Thailand, that has a market share of 72%, this is still considered significantly less. Number 4.3. The position of processed cassava products of Thailand in the ASEAN market. Thailand has the largest market share in export of processed cassava products in ASEAN market, followed by Singapore. While Indonesia market share growth has declined, unlike Vietnam, where the growth potential of the market has increased continuously. Although Vietnam's exports is less than the Thai, it could be a formidable competitor in the future. Number 4.4. The position of Thailand's processed cassava products in the global market. Thailand is the #1 processed cassava products exporter, followed by the Netherlands, France, Germany, and the United States. Thailand has increased the growth rate of exports constantly. Therefore, Thailand market share have continued to increase as well.